So in the last session, we talked a little bit about the impact of shutting down facilitation from the south and the effective disruption that we executed and the debilitating effect that it had on the enemy as we went into the spring of 2011. The enemy is now short fighters, they're short of weapons, and they're disorganized. I'd like to talk a little bit about Mancha specifically, because there is always the question of how did the Marines turn Mancha. First and foremost, I'll tell you that there was a great deal, obviously, of sacrifice in Mancha. Heavy combat, hard-fought gains. But even after all that, there was still some doubt, until the Marines gained the trust and confidence of the people. And there are lots of reasons that we were able to gain that trust and confidence. One of the biggest is treating the population with respect, respecting their culture. But another big reason was because the people realized that the Marines were there to protect them from the Taliban, and that we weren't going to indiscriminately use force. One of the examples from 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Kyle Ellison, they had a firefight down in the blocks with the Taliban trying to entice the Marines to engage with local civilians in between. And in fact, the Marines held fast. They didn't engage. They didn't endanger the population. They protected the population, and then they pursued the Taliban later. And frankly, the word got out, and the people realized that the Marines weren't there to harm them. They were there to rid Mancha of the Taliban, and they were there to protect the population. Once they realized this, we gained their trust and confidence, and then they committed to a security. And they committed, quite frankly, in earnest to helping us provide their security, and in some cases showed a willingness to provide for their own security. And when General Petraeus, COM-ISAF, gave the Marines permission to train local police on our own, we were able to enfranchise a great deal of the population in Mancha. Now, we had experience with local security forces from Iraq. We understood the pitfalls associated with hiring locals to provide for their own security, so we made sure in this case that we got it right. And the local police were immediately tied to the uniformed police. The local police were vetted prior to their participation, required shuras and agreements from the elders. They were integrated into the overall security plan, working side by side, not just with our forces, but also with the ANSF. And most importantly, once they were vetted and once they were participating, is the fact that they knew the enemy. And we found out through reporting that they were a huge threat to the enemy, because the enemy realized now that they had locals who knew them, who knew the area, who were actively participating against the insurgency. They became targets for the insurgency, but they stood their ground. And today, as Mancha is in the first phase of transition, these security forces, these same Afghan local police, are playing a key role. I don't put a lot of stock in statistics, but if you look at statistics in Mancha, you get a feel for the change from 2010 to 2011. From October to December of 2010, there were 54 of what we would classify as significant events within 3 kilometers of the Mancha District Center. And then during that same 3-month period in 11, October to December of 2011, there were 5. And if you look at that same 3-month period within 5 kilometers of the district center, there were 233 events in 2010 compared to 8 events in 2011. So I think in this case, statistics are a little bit telling. Overall in Mancha, This year there were 176 significant events. Last year that figure was up above 900. So today, almost exactly 2 years from the date our forces entered Mancha, Mancha is in the first phase of transition, and they entered that transition in December of 11. They held another round of elections earlier in 2011. The district government is up and functioning. There's 600 Afghan local police operating side by side with the Afghan National Civil Order Police, the Afghan Uniform Police, the Afghan Army. Most people in the United States haven't heard anything about Mancha for months, and we think that the Afghan National Security Forces will be able to keep it that way.